and tap upkeep. And welcome back to the channel if you've been here before. And if you haven't, then please sit back, relax, and enjoy the show that we have for you today. So, it seems that a lot of people have been enjoying my little budget builds that I've been doing. And if this is something you like, then please leave a comment, let me know. Uh, with that in mind, though, pardon me, I decided to really do a challenge. So, for today, we're going to dive into budget Kaalia of the Vast. And this is kind of a homebrew, if you will, coming from my insanity. And minus her, everything in here is about $1 or less. There are a couple things that are like, like 3 cents to 10 cents over. And I'm excluding Soul Ring and I'm excluding Swiftfoot Boots because everybody should have a copy of that can get a hold of. So if you don't know, Kaalia was one of the very first Commander products ever released, way back in the start of Wizards of the Coast, making EDH a big thing. And she was actually the first precon I bought, and I bought her because I absolutely love what she does. And at the time, she was the big boogeyman of the format, and it was very hard to beat this deck. Sorry, my nose is always itchy, and I don't know why. With that said, let's jump into what she actually does, because if you've never seen her, if you've never fought her, oh boy. So for a colorless, a red, a black, and a white, we get a human cleric that's only a 2/2 with flying. Possibly bad about that. Her ability. So whenever Kaalia the Vast attacks, just attacks, I don't need to do damage. I just have to turn her sideways to an opponent. Then I may put an angel, demon, or dragon creature card from my hand onto the battlefield, tapped and attacking that opponent. I wish my nose would quit itching. What that means is we are filled with angels, demons, and dragons in this deck. Fair mix of the whole bodies, and all we have to do is have at least one in our hand, turn sideways, and bam, we're off to the races, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. People of no particular gender neutrality, we are being scary. We are getting very scary. So our girl Kaalia here was so scary back in the day because I mean she's got flying. She comes out fairly quick. And oof, Lord help you when we start dropping bombs, because it's one of those when she turns sideways, everybody just kind of braced for impact because you didn't know what was coming. Now we are on a budget restriction, um, so our creature quality here is probably not as great as it actually can be. But given that we're on a budget restriction, I thought it would help kind of get the brain flowing and looking for other things to fill spots and kind of do this and that. Because we need our creatures to do a lot more than just come into play and attack. We need them to have some kind of benefit attached to them. So let's kind of jump in with our creature package. First up is the Adult Gold Dragon. It's a nice 5 mana 4/3 with flying, lifelink, and haste. So even if it's not the most impressive creature we can drop after having Kaalia attack, we still can gain at least 4 life and help neutralize that, because I'm here to tell you, when you drop Kaalia on the board, it doesn't matter if you say it's budget, it doesn't matter what you say. Anybody that's ever fought a Kaalia deck sees it and goes, die. Because Kaalia is that scary. But yeah, she's scary to be seen at casual pods and some high end pods, but not like CEDH level. She can get CEDH level with the right basically combo pieces, but essentially she's just like a high power or casual version commander. And it has a lot to do with the fact that you have to play a lot of big dumb things and hope to God she lives. Moving forward, though, let's continue on with our deck and not get sidetracked again. Oh, look, a squirrel. Anyways, Angel of Despair is a lot of mana. We're talking 7 mana for a 5/5 flying angel. But if we could cheat her into play, whenever she enters, we could destroy anything that we want. The Angel of Grace, we kind of don't want to play this as a threat from Kaalia because we want to be able to keep 5 mana open for this 5/4 flying angel with flash. And that's important because when she enters the battlefield until the end of turn, damage that would reduce your life total to less than 1 reduces it to 1 instead. So if somebody was to try and finish us off, we could hopefully flash this out and still live. And if at some point it was sent to the graveyard by mill, discard, just straight up blown up, we can hopefully pay 6 mana to exile this angel and our life total will become 10. So we can hopefully survive and finish the job if we've been winning the game. Aurelia, the Law Above. Beautiful card that came out from the Murders of Karloff Manor. And for 5 mana, a 3, a red, and a white, we get a 4/4 angel that has flying, vigilance, and haste. And it says whenever a player attacks with 3 or more creatures, you draw a card. Whenever a player attacks with 5 or more creatures, he's going to deal 3 damage to each of my opponents, and I'm going to gain 3 life. So what I really, really like about this is it's not restricted to just you, it's restricted to a player. So if somebody has a token strategy and they start swinging, we're able to benefit off of her if she manages to live. I don't really care for this art too much, though, by the way. I really like this art, or even this art. The art that we have here is just the one that kind of fits our budget restrictions. I'm surprised this card actually doesn't have a higher price tag for the capabilities that this card can do. I actually thought about maybe doing a budget version of this as a commander and doing kind of like a Boros Weenie style deck and then just explode out of nowhere. Let me know if that's something you'd be interested in, though. I'm really kind of toying around with it in my head. I think it'd be hilarious and just probably very good, actually. Lots of anthem effects and whatnot, but let's continue on. Next, we're going to move to Bladewing the Risen. He's just a 7 mana 4/4 flying dragon zombie that allows us to reanimate a dragon card from our graveyard back onto the battlefield, and we can pump our dragon team. We don't really have too many dragons in the deck per se to use the pump because we are on a budget, but the few that we have, we kind of want to get them back if they ever die. Bloodghast Demon, or Bloodgift Demon, my apologies. Apparently I cannot read tonight. Has flying as a 5/4, and at the beginning of your upkeep, target player draws a card and loses 1 life. So we can use this to our advantage to hopefully get some kind of card advantage coming, because the biggest thing with Kaalia is being able to keep cards in our hands and being able to draw any of our big baddies here. The Embodiment of Agonies. I saw this card like a lot of people did when it first came out and thought it was really, really good. It obviously hasn't done a whole lot, and I thought it'd be fun to try in this kind of build since we are on such a budget. So for 3 mana, we get a flying death-touching demon that says when he enters the battlefield with a 1/1 counter on it for each different mana cost among non-land cards in our graveyard. So if we can hold on to him, and after some kind of probable board wipe that is inevitably coming our way, all these different mana costs here could actually just make him huge, and maybe that would be enough. I just thought it'd be fun to try him. Dream Devourer, kind of the same thing. He's a demon that came from the Kaldheim set. Didn't really see a whole lot of play, and I thought he'd be interesting to put in this kind of build. I mean, he's cheap enough that we can cast and at least have a body, but I really wanted to try him because of his Foretell capability. So each non-land card in our hand without Foretell has Foretell. Its Foretell cost is equal to its mana cost reduced by 2. What this means is, during our turn, we may pay 2 and exile it from our hand face down, and we cast it later on for its Foretell cost. So, essentially like Aurelia, the Law Above. We could pay 2 generic mana and have her face down as a Foretell card, and then at some point in the game, we could just pay a total of 3, if I'm reading this right, Yes, we should be able to pay 3 instead of 5 mana and flip her over and do our thing. He also has whenever you foretell a card, he gets a +2/+0 until end of turn. Probably not that relevant, but just having a nice cheap blocker to be able to help defend our life points a little bit while we get Kaalia out. Not to mention, I really think the foretell thing could be kind of interesting in this build because it doesn't work just for our creatures; it works for all of our permanents. Correct? Yeah, non-land card. Woohoo! Literally just read. A big heater that came out in M21 and has been reprinted multiple times, and I'm glad it is. Keep reprinting it. I love seeing this dragon. This is another one I might build a $1 budget around just because it is so dumb, really, when you look at it. This is Dracuseth, the Maw of Flames. He's a 7 mana, 7/7 flying Dargon, like me. So whenever he attacks, it deals 4 damage to any target, 3 damage to each of up to 2 other targets. So he can hit and deal 7, and then 4, a 3, and a 3. So, I mean, he can hit and deal a maximum of 11 damage to one particular person if you do the 7 from his attack and 4 from his ability, and then the other 2 opponents get hit for like 3 apiece. That's not that bad. And I think it's just a fun dragon to have in the deck. I mean, he hits like a truck sometimes. Decadent Dragon provides us a little bit of card value if we cast it for the adventure side. Exiling 2 cards from the target opponent's library face down, we can look at them and play them for as long as they remain in exile. So we can jack 2 cards from probably like, a green player or even a blue player and be able to have counterspell magic or even more ramp if we needed to. Then we have the actual creature side of it, which is a 4 mana 4/4 dragon. Not that special, really. He has flying, trample, and whenever it attacks, we create a treasure. So we like that capability as well. I thought Dazzling Angel would be a great include in this build. So whenever another creature we control enters, we gain 1 life. This means if we drop this before Kaalia, we're able to start gaining life as we start dropping a lot of our other creatures. Because that's going to be our biggest issue, is not really the mana, because I'm very land heavy in this deck with almost 40 for obvious reasons, but the Dazzling Angel, I think, provides enough of a buffer, enough of a cushion that we could do just fine. Bringer of the Last Gift, I thought it'd be hilarious to have this in as well. It's 8 mana for a 6/6 Vampire Demon with flying, and that's a lot of mana. Oh man, is that a lot of mana. However, this is why I put it in the deck. We don't want to cheat this one out with Kaalia. This is kind of our late game bounce back. So when he enters the battlefield, if you cast it, which is why we don't want to use Kaalia, each player sacrifices all other creatures they control. Then each player returns all creature cards from their graveyard that weren't put there this way to the battlefield. It's a living death on a body. So when we cast it, all other creatures they control are going to be sacrificed. If I remember the rules correctly, he stays, but everything else would die. So if we got like a one-sided board wipe, or we were the last in the turn to rebuild, we could potentially drop this and just kind of laugh maniacally as all our big stuff is back. The Fire Spitter Whelp, I mean, it just kind of synergizes. It's a nice cheap dragon. Uh, Whenever another dragon we cast would enter, he's going to deal 1 damage to each opponent. We're probably not going to get that benefit out of it, but whenever we cast a non-creature spell, he's also going to deal damage to everybody. So we can incremental damage while we're trying to set mana rocks and protection pieces, things like that. So I thought it'd be a fun card to add to the deck. We do have a couple of dragons that we could actually play and cast, so there is potential for that. Giada is just, I mean, de facto angel build if you're trying to build mono white angels. Flying Vigilance 2/2 for 2 mana, so we can have a blocker out pretty quick, hopefully. And then whenever an angel enters the battlefield under our control, it's a +1/+1 counter on it for each other angel we already control. We don't have a whole lot of angels, but we have a decent ratio between everything. Excuse me. And then it says we can tap her to add a white mana. Granted, we can only spend it to cast an angel spell. That's okay, we'll deal with that. Ironically, moving right next door to an angel. So this is the Glorious Protector, a 3/4 with flash and flying. And whenever the Glorious Protector enters the battlefield, you may exile any number of non-angel creatures you control until she leaves the battlefield. She also has Foretell for 2 and a white. So the interesting thing about this angel is we can keep it in hand and hopefully in the presence of a board wipe, slam it down. Our stuff is gonna vanish and be tucked away really quickly. And then when the board wipe happens, she's gonna die unfortunately, but all our big stuff comes back and everybody's going, oh well, that didn't work. You're darn right it didn't work. It's like having a Teferi's protection on a budget. Kinda. Glorybringer, just a big flying 4/4 haste flying dragon. I mean, you can exert it to have it deal 4 damage to target non dragon creature and opponent controls, but potentially it's just another big dumb flappy boy. Harvester of Souls is going to draw some cards. Whenever a non token creature dies, we're able to draw a card. We're hoping that we're able to trigger this quite a bit, if nothing else. It's just a 5/5 death touching demon that not really a lot of people are going to turn in our way. Hitagutsu, the Devouring Chaos, another card that doesn't see a whole lot of love, and I thought I would try it out in this build. So, for 4 mana, we get a 4/4 Ogre Demon that says we can pay a black, sacrifice a creature, and scry 2. Potentially could matter if somebody was trying to play like any kind of exile effect on something that we really wanted to have. I mean, even something simple like the Gold Dragon from up above. Maybe we really need that life link, so maybe we do need to sack it instead of letting it just be exiled. We can get it back. We are in the best colors to get it get the card back, so we're not too worried about that. He also has another ability. So for 2 and a red, we can tap him and exile the top card of our library. We may play that card this turn. Play is important. That means if it's a land and we're missing our land drops, we're able to do that. Then you exile a non-land card. When you exile a non-land card this way, Hitagutsu will deal damage equal to the exile card's mana value to any target. This means if we were to exile, I don't know, Drakuseth Maul of Flame, we can 7-ball somebody in the face and keep this train of pain going. I like the idea behind this. That's why he's in here. I think it's a great thing to try with this Kaalia build. We are on a budget again, so I thought it'd be fun. There's a Lisa, Forgotten Archangel. So for 2, a white, and a black, we get a 4/5 flying life-linking angel. Very important. Who says whenever another non-token creature you control dies, return that card to its owner's hand at the beginning of the next end step. So potentially we could have this, and we could do like if you do like Higetsu and she's on the battlefield, you sacrifice, I don't know, Kaalia for instance, instead of being removed. Then we get her back in our hand as long as Lisa's on the battlefield, and I like the interaction there. And she also has another ability that if a creature an opponent controls would die, bye, see you later. It's exiled. One of our ways to bring back a couple of things, other than the Bringer of the Last Gift, is the Karmic Guide. That when it enters the battlefield, return target creature card from our graveyard to the battlefield. It has flying, protection from black. It is a 2/2 for a 5 mana. Not that great. It's more of a late game piece. And it has Echo, so if we don't pay its mana cost on our upkeep, we have to yeet this thing back to the grave. Small price to pay. Junji the Midnight Sky is another way we can reanimate something to our battlefield, and we can lose 2 life whenever Junji dies. We get the following. We can either reanimate something, or each opponent can discard 2 cards and lose 2 life. Not bad for a 5 mana, 5/5 flying menace dragon. Um, just kind of a nice piece to have into the deck. We can slam it down with Kaalia. People are going to have a hard time blocking it because it has flying and menace. And then, if a board wipe happens, then his ability would go off and we could get something back. So it has a lot of potential, I think. Inspiring Overseer, Just a real simple enters the battlefield. We gain a life and draw a card. Nothing too crazy there, but it's a little bit of a value creature. Icing Death, just kind of a value creature, really. So he's got flying, he's got vigilance, and there's a 4/3. And if he dies, you can uh, create the legendary token if you really feel like it. It might be handy to put on Kaalia, make her a 4/2. But Horde Smelter Dragon, another pretty good value creature. He's a 6 mana 5/5 flying dragon that for a 3 and a red we can destroy target artifact, and this thing gets bigger, equal to however much mana the artifact cost to play. So something like a Thran Dynamo, pay 4 mana, blow it up. Our dragon is now a 9/5. We like that. The Metropolis Reformer is a new card, a newer card, I should say, like a year or two old. Anyways, it's a 2/3 with flying vigilance, and when it comes into play, we have hexproof. And whenever Metropolis Reformer is dealt damage, we gain that much life. So as long as it doesn't have trample, if we block like, some big dumb idiot that's like, 10, 12, 14 power or whatever, we gain all that life. So it's got some potential there. Really, it's just a nice cheap angel we can throw out and again keep some kind of presence on the board. Rakdos, the Lord of Riots. We can't cast him unless our opponent has lost life this turn. But he has flying, trample, and creature spells you cast cost 1 less to cast for each life your opponents have lost this turn. So this could potentially start making our big fatties here a whole lot cheaper. It would be probably post-combat, but that's okay. We can still help get things rolling. Runescar Demon is just a tutor on a gigantic body. And Steel Hellkite can be a pretty nasty board wipe if left unchecked. People really, really don't respect the Steel Hellkite as much as they should. As you can kind of see, though, a big reason people have such a problem with a Kaalia deck, just about everything in here flies. Just about everything in here is nasty and scary, and we don't want to fight it. But just about everything flies, and people have a hard time stopping flyers. That's why a lot of my dragon decks do so well. We have our sorcery package here. We have Siphon Mind to make people discard cards when we can draw cards. Read the Bones allows us to scry 2 and then draw 2. Painful Truth allows us to draw cards. Ambitious Cost, we can draw cards at the cost of 3 life. This would be 3 life as well if we pay 1 of each color mana. Faithless Looting and Highway Robbery allows us to discard cards to draw more cards. And we are also running Cut a Deal. So each opponent draws a card, then we draw a card for each opponent who drew a card this way. So we can potentially draw 3 cards for 3 mana. We are running Into the Fire, and we have a couple of options. So Into the Fire is a sorcery that for 3 mana we can deal 2 damage to each creature, planeswalker, and battle. Probably the mode we're going to choose most often than not. Probably right before we cast Kaalia too, if there's a lot of little idiots on the battlefield causing a problem. Or we could choose the other mode and put any number of cards from our hand on the bottom of our library and draw that many cards plus 1. So this has potential to get us out of a hole if we're a little too mana flooded, or we need like our board wipe, austere command, or dam. It helps us dig for one of these and potentially save our skin. Pyroclasm is another cheap little board wipe we can do for 2 mana, deals 2 damage to each creature. Moving down to our instance package, we of course are running the Chaos Warp and Swords and Path. So we have our pretty standard sweep here. I don't know why the Swords is so expensive. It shouldn't be. Let's see what our cheapest version of it is. It is that cheap version. Wow. Just got a reprint. Shouldn't be that much. Anyway. So the Swords and the Path will allow us to exile a creature, so we don't have to deal with a problem like, an Abyssin or some big dumb Eldrazi. Mortify, we can blow up a creature or an enchantment. G-Spark, we can exile any permanent with mana value 4 or greater. Crackling Doom allows us to deal 2 damage to everybody that's not us, and then everybody but us has to sack a creature with the greatest power among creatures that they control. This gets around like indestructible effects or anything like that because it's being sacrificed. So yeet it to the graveyard, punk. Cloud Shift is our one big way to protect Kaalia, so we can instant speed flicker her from the battlefield and hopefully save her. We're also running Righteous Charm, which is really handy against a lot of the creature heavy decks. So we could choose the last mode, which is each creature deals 1 damage equal to 1 damage to its controller. If it's a graveyard deck, fine, we'll exile target player's graveyard. And then if we absolutely have to, if there's something causing a big enough problem, like on the artifact side of things, like a Mirari's Wake. No, not a Mirari's Wake. No, I mean just pick something that's an artifact that's big, spooky, like Panharmonicon or something, and we can shoot it before it becomes a problem. Moving on to our artifact package, we're a little bit heavy here. We of course are running every signet you could possibly run for this color pairing. We are also running, of course, our Soul Ring, Commander Spirit, a Felwar Stone, one Talisman, and then the Wayfarer's Bauble. We, of course, have our boots to help protect our commander and give her haste. I felt like the one Talisman would be adequate. You could always make room and put the other two in if you absolutely have to. We also have one single enchantment with Rising of the Day from the Lord of the Rings set, so creatures we control have haste, and legendary creatures you control get a slight power boost. So ideally play this, then play Kaalia, and then just start swinging for the fences as a 3/2 creature with haste, so that's not that bad. Moving on finally to our land package here. Bonder's Enclave, another way to draw some cards. We're running your pretty standard suite of lands you would see in a build like this. Our Pain lands with Battlefield Forge, Caves of Kolios, running excuse me, our check lands such as Clifftop Retreat, Dragon Skull Summit, also running all 3 temples, the Smoldering Marsh. We're running a Shattered Landscape from Modern Horizons 3 because we can sacrifice this to go find any one of our basics, which we're running a very heavy amount because we got to make land drops, so we don't need a lot of them coming in and play tapped. Our single copy of Land Destruction with Field of Ruin, of course. Path of Ancestry won't trigger a whole lot from our commander, but at the very least, it's what we call a Rainbow Land. One of our bigger tap lands is the Normode Outpost, and it's really good due to the fact that it gives us one of any of our colors, so it's like having another Rainbow Land on the battlefield. It comes in play tapped, puts a minute thing. Other than that, everything you see here is pretty standard you would see in any kind of build like this. Expanse, Evolving Wilds. We're also having Bolt of the Archangel in the deck, so creatures we control gain Death Touch and Lifelink until end of turn just by paying 2, a white, and a black, and tapping it. So we're running 39 lands, as you can see, and that's a lot, but we need it. So I know you're sitting there thinking, okay, Buddha, hear me out. What if I built this deck, which by the way is only $42 rounded up, up with some shipping, handling, taxes, things like that. What cards would I want to do to make this meaner, make it better? Well, funny you should say that. So if you drop another $120 in total, you get for about $200. Pardon me, you get access to some of the nasties I've got hidden away here. Anger that we want in the graveyard to give all our stuff haste. Archfiend of Depravity. So at the beginning of each opponent's end step, that player chooses up to 2 creatures he or she controls and sacrifices the rest. Gets around indestructible capabilities. And it gets around all your token armies because it's just fun to be able to swing with Kaalia, drop this, pass the turn, and go, so how's your elf army going? How about them goblins? Zombies? Shame. Archfiend of Despair says your opponents cannot gain life. And at the beginning of each end step, each opponent loses life equal to the life that player lost already this turn. Just a nasty, nasty demon to have drop and just hurt people. Lavison, we were just talking about earlier, she got her reprint finally. in Innistrad Remaster. I haven't pulled this printing of her yet. I have the original printing. But I'm glad to see her price coming down. She was like 40, 60 bucks for a while. But she has flying vigilance. She herself is indestructible for an 8/8 angel, and other stuff we control will have indestructible as long as she is on the battlefield. She is definitely a swords or path to exile on site target. I can't imagine why. Balefire Dragon is a one-sided board wipe on just one opponent, so whenever it deals combat damage to a player, it deals that much damage to each creature that player controls. Drana and Lavana, they are flying vigilance for a vampire angel that's only a 3/4. The activated abilities of creatures your opponents control cannot be activated. So anything that requires like pay a mana, do a thing, or tap this or untap this to do a thing, it can't be done. And then she has all activated abilities of all creatures our opponents control. And we may spend mana as though it's mana of any color to activate those abilities. So we steal their abilities and we make it ours, and well, it's just a bad day for everybody. Mother of Runes, always a good card, was actually in the pre-con when it first came out. So target creature you control gains protection from a color of your choice until end of turn. In fact, let's switch her printing. That's an interesting secret lair version of her. Let's go down. No. This is her original printing in the Commander set. Really cool. Really cool. So we also have a 1/2 combo with Master of Cruelties. He has First Strike, Death Touch, and he can only attack alone. He's only a 1/4. But whenever Master of Cruelties attacks a player and it isn't blocked, that player's life total becomes 1. Master of Cruelties assigns no combat damage to this combat. So the way that this works is it used to not work, but they've reworded the way that this actually works. So you attack with Kaalia, you drop this, it's attacking the same player. It has First Strike, so its ability goes off first, making said opponent's life total become 1, and then Kaalia comes in and just lops their head off, so now they're dead. So it could be a nice 1/2 punch for somebody that's like, I have 1 billion health. Well, now it's at 1, and now you're dead. Lyra Dawnbringer is just a really sweet card. She's got flying, First Strike, lifelink, and other angels we control, they will get a +1/+1 and also have lifelink. Her price tag keeps coming down, and I'm glad to see that. I don't know why it's the foil edition that we're seeing here. We can, select the non-foil and it'll be just fine. Really kind of like this border too. So she helps out a little bit, helps keep our life total up. Ishin, 2 Heavens is 1. Really great card for this. So if a creature attacking causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. So something like Dracuseth and Kaalia, they trigger double, and it can just stack up and make things horrible, as you can imagine. Grand Abolisher is just a nice way to protect us from counter magic, so as long as it's our turn, nobody can do anything from... They can't cast spells, activate abilities of artifacts, creatures, or enchantments. He just says no. We also have Firemane Commando, flying 4/3. Whenever you attack with 2 or more creatures, we get to draw a card. Whenever another player attacks with 2 or more creatures, they draw a card if none of them are attacking us. So, potential bargain capability here of, hey now, hear me out. Don't attack me. You get to draw some cards. Probably not going to work, just so you know. We also have the Sower of Discord. So when it enters, we choose 2 players, and then whenever damage is dealt to one of the chosen players, the other chosen player also loses that much life. So if there's like somebody has hexproof or it can't be targeted or whatever, you can play this, and because it says choose not target, you can choose the person that's got hexproof or shroud or whatever the heck the case is, and he could say, I don't care, I hit Billy Bob over here in the face for like 38 points of damage, so Joe, you're taking 38 points of damage at the same time. Pretty scary. I mean, it was a lot more expensive. I'm glad the price tag's coming down. Of course, the big bad scary dragon itself, the Terror of the Peaks. Um, I'm sure you've played Standard. I'm sure you've seen it around in other Commander decks. So, anything that targets this dragon, you will have to pay an additional 3 life with this 5/4 flying dragon. And then whenever another creature enters the battlefield under our control, doesn't matter how, this dragon is going to deal damage equal to that creature's power to any target. Newsflash, our stuff is huge, it's big, it's scary, it's going to hurt our opponent. Finally, our creature package can be rounded up by Villas, Broker of Blood. He's a big old 8/8 flying demon that says we can pay a black, pay 2 life, target creature gets -1/-1 until end of turn. However, if he still is around, we really like him because every time we lose life, we draw that many cards. That could deck us, but it may not, and we can also trigger him ourselves to start drawing cards. Of course, we have, Teferi's Protection, which I don't know why it always brings up the Japanese. I mean, it's pretty hard and everything, but you got to be able to read the card in my opinion. So you got Teferi's Protection, Flawless Maneuver, instant speed, protect our stuff. This protects all of us. Deflecting SWAT is another way to just say no to anything that we don't want coming our way. Reanimate allows us to draw some heat, basically, because we're going to reanimate something. Excuse me. Night's Whisper is just outside the budget restriction, and if it came down a little bit more, I'd throw it in. But it's just a nice, simple, draw 2 cards and lose 2 life. The other Signet, if you think you need a little bit more ramp, Dragon Tempest would be amazing in this build, because it gives creatures with flying that enter the battlefield under our control haste until end of turn, and then it deals damage equal to the number of dragons we control to anything that's within our range that we feel like basically shooting out of the sky. Not that relevant, we don't have that many dragons. And of course, I added a Pain Land, if you will, more or less just based on if the mana base seems to be a little wonky, then hopefully we can fix it by just doing a land swap. But this has been our Kaalia of the Vast. Everything is under $1 budget build. Our curve is actually not too bad. We have a very high 2 and 3 count, and we gradually dip down. So I really like the way our curve is. We're fairly well split on our mana, so I like that. As you can see, we'll have access to 3 mana very quickly. So we could probably scry that to the bottom when we would draw our 4th land, and we're almost off to the races there. So I really like this build. I like Kaalia. I thought this would be a fun challenge. Now this hand I don't like at all. We would ship that one. Probably ship that one. This one I like. We're very, very ramp heavy, so bottom, keep everything else. I didn't click on you. Why did you come up? That is very, very distracting. We hit a pretty bad mana pocket, but probably by the time we're able to cast Kaalia, we have Rakdos out. We're not doing a whole lot, so that we probably would die from that, but how are we supposed to know? This was the opening 7. I would absolutely keep this. Temple to Scry. We like to see in the Signet, so draw that on our turn. Play a mountain, play our Signet, play a swamp. Painful Truth, draw 1, 2, 3. So yeah, I like the way this was flowing. This would be a very good keepable hand. That would be horrible. No land and a Soul Ring. Really weird that it would do that, because we should definitely be able to get more lands in our hand. We're almost at 3 lands in our opening hand all the time on our average. Well, so this has been gotcha. That mosquito. Feel like One Punch Man now. I even kind of look like him, don't I? Anyways, so this has been a Everything's $1 or less. Budget Kaalia the Vast build. Let me know what you think. I'll have the deck list in the description below, as I do with all of my other videos that have decks built around them. And let me know if you're interested in anything particular for another build. I do have a request for a actual list and build video of my personal Rift the Awakener deck, which I won't lie, kind of a beast. We usually win with Rift if we get a good enough hand and get a good enough start. There's only a few times I've lost with Rift here recently, and I'm pretty proud of that. I really love my Rift deck. But don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, ring that bell for some notifications. Show me some love. I appreciate every single one of you that do this. And leave me some directions of things you would like to see. I have some other stuff I'm trying to work on to get more content up. Maybe some arena gameplay if I can get everything to work correctly. And maybe I'll start doing some live recordings of gameplays I do at my own personal home. So give me a thumbs up. Let me know what you think. I've been the Buddha Dragon. Don't forget, rub that belly for mana, and may your games be filled with nothing but luck. Until the next time, peace out.